My wife, Kelly, and our family have known Mary Ann and Harland for many years. We met them when Harland was a teenager. We call Mary Ann Grandma. Harland calls our son Tristan brother, and to our daughter Ambrosia sister. Mary Ann Haram and Harland Dietrich were beloved to one another as grandmother and grandson. They loved to spend time together in this world. They shared struggles together in this world. They shared victories together in this world. They shared their lives together in this world. Together they left this world. The last 10 days have been filled with shock, disbelief, grief, sadness, and tears. But the last 10 days have also been filled with celebration. It seemed that every day and every night people were gathering somewhere, in people's homes, in taverns, on Lake Minnetonka at Gray's Bay, placing flowers and memorials. I got a chance to go to some of these gatherings, and I saw people who had never met, who were embracing one another, crying in each other's arms one minute, and laughing the next, telling Harland stories, and telling Harland jokes. Last week, we had a gathering at our house. People come over to put the picture boards together. People came over, many of them I didn't even know. And we sat and we talked and we toasted to Harland and we laughed and we cried. It went well into the night. We never got the picture boards done. As a matter of fact, we never started. But that's okay, they got done this morning. I know many of you never got a chance to know Mary Ann. Harland had an extraordinary love for her. To know one of them, you must know both of them. And I want to tell you a little bit about her. Grandma had an unusual zest for life. Her favorite words were wonderful and beautiful. That's the way she described her life experiences, the people around her, and everything she did. Grandma and Harland would spend Christmas and Thanksgiving with us every year for the last many years. And just less than a couple of months ago, they walk in our home on Christmas morning. Grandma has Harland's arm as they're walking up the short flight of stairs. Everybody is wishing them Merry Christmas. And Grandma comes to the top of the stairs and I say, Grandma, how you doing? You know, most people, it's fine. I'm doing great, how are you? Not Grandma. I say, Grandma, how are you doing? She looks at me with a smile, the wide eyes, and she says, I love everything. And as Harland's taking off her coat, she's walking into the room. Family members, Christmas decorations, Christmas music playing. She says, this is beautiful. This is so wonderful. That's just the way Grandma was. That's the way she saw everything. And my wife comes out of the kitchen, and I don't know how she got stuck with the cooking last year. But she comes out of the kitchen and gives Grandma a big hug and wishes her Merry Christmas. And Grandma says, I love you all so much. At 87 years old, she still saw the world with wonder, beauty, and awe. She could have the same experience 1,000 times and appreciate it just as much every single time. It was as though she was looking at the world through the eyes of a child, experiencing things for the first time. She loved everything. She had a great attitude, she loved people. But she didn't always have an easy life. Grandma was born in 1925. Her parents, just a few years earlier, had come to the United States from Germany after World War I, when the country was in ruin. They came here with the shirts on their back. Her father got a job and they were making a go of it. And when Grandma was just 5 years old, the stock market crashed. And it was the start of the Great Depression. They lost everything. They moved to a little farm outside of town, paying $12 a month for rent. No electricity, no heat, no running water. It was very tough times for her, her parents, her two brothers, and sister. And I'm sure many nights the children went to bed hungry at night. These hardship stories were given to me by other family sources, not by her. Because she never talked about the bad times. She didn't remember it that way. My son Tristan would talk to Grandma when they came over on holidays about the old days of the Great Depression. When asked about the hard times, all she said was, it was hard work. And we didn't have extra. Even though by today's standards, it would be misery. But Grandma did not remember it that way. She grew up and left the farm, and she said when she came back to visit her parents on the farm, it was like going to heaven. She would talk about so many things when she'd come over on Christmas. Music was one of her loves. She talked to Tristan about it all the time. And Tristan brought out one of his guitars. And Grandma said, I used to play the guitar and sing at county fairs and carnivals and in concert. Oh, I wish I had a chance to see her play. I bet she loved making the audiences smile. And looking at the photos of Grandma when she was younger, especially the ones of her on the beach posing in her swimsuit, it's easy to see she wasn't always Grandma. She was a beautiful young woman. And we really don't know many details about the rest of her life. I know that she was married. She got a job that she worked most of her life, and I know she was a dedicated employee. And it's my guess she was a very loving wife. Mary Ann believed in the power of the mind. With a positive attitude, a healthy spirit, loving other people, that you can have a good life and connect with a higher power. I was talking to Harland's mother, Maxine, the other day. Unfortunately, she was not able to be here today. But she was saying how grateful she was for the relationship Mary Ann, her mother, had with Harland. From a very young age, from the time he was an infant. Always being with him. As she put it, putting positive thoughts in his head, smiling, and being with her there always. Maxine had Harland when she was just 18 years old. She was poor. Harland never knew his father. All he knew is that he was a man of Middle Eastern descent. Harland told me stories about his childhood. Growing up in Minneapolis, moving from apartment to apartment. Changing schools constantly, and he never really had a chance to make friends. And he told me that his mother used to send him to the store to buy groceries. And that he was embarrassed for paying for them with food stamps. Harland didn't have much stability or a traditional family upbringing. When Harland was a young teenager, he moved in with his grandmother because of life circumstances. At age 14, Harland went out and he got a job at Lund's grocery, bagging groceries. He was only 14, and he wasn't old enough to get a job, but let's just say he lied about his age. I wish I was there when Harland got his first check and cashed it, and went into a store and put down cash. I bet that was a proud moment for him. And then he got another job working at Cub Foods. He had 2 jobs. Cub Foods, he was stocking shelves, sweeping floors, anything he could do. And he brought the money home to his family. And he took care of his mother with that money as well, even though she wasn't living with him. My wife Kelly worked with Maxine at Denny's when Harland came in to apply for his job. And she was interviewing Harland. She had the application. She's looking at it, and she looks across at him and says, "How old are you?" She just gives him that Harland smile. We all know that Harland smile. He got the job. And many times Kelly and Harland would sit after work, having coffee, talking, and they became close. And I'll never forget the day that Kelly brought home this teenage kid. I bonded with him right away. He talked about his problems, his difficulties, but he never complained. He was never angry. He was never bitter, never blamed anyone. He never had an unkind word, and he did not have a bad attitude. He was just looking for advice, insights. He wanted some answers to some questions he had, and he just wanted to move forward. And I was privileged that he chose me to bond with and look to as a father figure. And I'm very proud that he became part of our family from that point on, him and Grandma. Harland told me that he wanted to be a server. He told me that he knew he could make good money, he'd be good at it, and he was really excited that he knew that that's what he wanted to do. And I'll never forget when he got his job at Champs. He was so excited. He comes over and he says, "Tom, you won't believe it. I get to watch the Viking game during work." He would invite our family to Champs for Sunday brunch on game day on Sunday. So we'd walk in the front door, big crowd of people waiting to be seated. And there's Harland in the back going this way. And we walk past a crowd of people who are waiting for their tables. And there's a table waiting for us right there with our beverages ready. We felt like VIPs. I know a lot of people are here from Champs. I'm not sure you're supposed to do that. But he would have our beverages for us, and we'd grab the buffet, and as we're eating, we're watching Harland run around and serve customers and joke with his employees. And he was just having such a good time. I think I was watching him more than I was the Viking game. They were probably losing anyway. And as I'm finishing my Bloody Mary, as I'm putting it down on the table, he has another one that he puts down on the table right in front of me as he's walking by. I look up, he looks over his shoulder, and he gives me that Harland smile. And then we're about to leave, and he puts down the check. I open up the little leather case, and I find this. He used to give us one of these every time we came in. The damage. Excellent service, $30. No waiting, $25. Hugs, $50. Brunch, $40. No hair in your food because your waiter is bald, priceless. He would give us one of these every time we came in. Harland had fun at work. It was a party to him, and he was great at his job because he loved serving people. Whether he was working at Champs, Granite City, or Crave, he talked about his work all the time. He loved his coworkers, he loved his customers, and his managers. Well, most of them. No, he loved them all. He loved every single minute when he went to work. As far as I can tell, Harland never had a bad day at work. One of Harland's proudest moments is when he bought his house. He never lived in a house before. He always lived in apartments. And he was so happy to give his grandma a house to live in because she had not lived in a house for so many years. And he also served people at home. He would have Viking parties all the time. He would invite us over. But do you think Harland would have pretzels and potato chips? Barbecue ribs, chicken wings, mashed potatoes. And he would call his friend Tao and ask if his grandmother would prepare some of her world-famous egg rolls. I saw many football games over there. When you walk down his basement, he has this big 70-inch HD plasma, whatever it is. He's got his big lazy boy there, chair, couch, and a bar and some bar stools. And I would be sitting in his lazy boy watching the game. And I found out that that's his chair. Somebody told me that. I don't remember who it was. And the last time I went to Harland's house for a football game, I come walking down the basement and he points to his chair and he says, "Have a seat." And I said, "No, Harland," I said, "that's your chair. You sit in your chair." He goes, No, Tom. When you're here, that's your chair." He loved being around he loved being around people, he loved serving people and making friends. He made friends everywhere he went. People from all walks of life. Even Packer fans. Harland went to Green Bay every year to watch the Vikings play the Packers. One year he drove out by himself and he pulls in the parking lot at Lambeau Field with a sea of Packer fans tailgating all over the place, wearing their green and yellow. Harland gets out of his car wearing a Viking jersey. He has a cooler full of marinated steaks and nothing to cook them on. So he's walking across the parking lot at Lambeau and he sees a big group of Packer fans. And he walked right up to them. He must have given him that Harland smile. Because he said all afternoon he was cooking steaks for these guys and they were giving him beer and he hung out with them all day long. Harland, you can make friends with Packer fans. You're a better man than I. He loved his Vikings. He did not live long enough to see the Vikings win a Super Bowl, but then none of us will. As busy as Harland was with work, sports, friends, hobbies, he always made plenty of time for his one true passion in life, his grandmother. I went over to Harland's house last week. I had to pick up a couple of things. And I walked in the door, and everything was quiet. It was kind of sad. And I look over and I see the couch that Grandma always sits in. when she watches television. I walked over there, and sitting on the table right in front of where Grandma sat was this. This is a calendar that Harland made for his grandma. It's a weekly calendar. Mondays, I work in the evening, no drinking. Let me explain the drinking part. Harland and Grandma love to sit down and have a drink and talk and just share their day with each other and spend time together. Grandma liked her wine and her coffees and Baileys. A couple of years ago, our family went to Harland's house for the first time for Thanksgiving dinner. And to celebrate, we brought a couple of bottles of champagne. And Kelly is opening up the champagne, and Grandma says, "What is that? Is that wine?" And Kelly says, "No, that's champagne." And she says, "Oh, I've never had that before." So she pours her a glass, and we make a toast. She walks away, and she comes back a few minutes later with her empty glass. And Kelly says, "Grandma, would you like some more of that?" And she says, "Oh, yes, please. That was really good." She drank the whole bottle and passed out on the couch. Well, the way I look at it, if you go through the Great Depression, you're 87 years old, you want to drink a bottle of champagne, I'll pour it for you. So Mondays, I work in the evening, no drinking. Tuesdays, we go for a spin and a breakfast. We go to the store, Cub, Barley's, Walmart, and Sam's. Wednesdays, I cook the food, we go out for a spin, and I go to work for the evening, no drinking. Thursdays, we go for a spin before I go to work in the evening, no drinking. Friday, I work all day. Saturdays, I guess Fridays they sit down and have a drink together after work. Saturdays, we go for a long spin, I work in the evening, no drinking. Sundays, we go for a spin and dinner. Harland made time for his grandmother. Ever since he was a teenager, he was taking care of her, always making time. And he loved to travel with his grandmother. He's been all over the country. I remember the first time Harland went traveling was with our family to Florida. We went to Disney World. And he really enjoyed it. And he decided that traveling is something he wants to do. So he would plan trips all the time. I remember one time he was taking a trip out to Yellowstone National Park and up in the Rocky Mountains. He was all excited and he takes off. A couple of days later, he calls me from Denver. He was at a baseball game in Denver. He says, "I just saw Barry Bonds hit a home run." I said, "Harland, what are you doing in Denver?" His family was so important to him. I remember when his brother Sean moved to Minnesota from Oklahoma. He had an apartment over in Maple Grove by Champs. Sean just graduated high school and he's going to move up to Minnesota towards the end of the summer. And he was so excited all summer long. He got a bigger apartment so Sean could have his own bedroom, provided transportation, got a bed. He was preparing for Sean to come live with him and his grandma, to be part of the family up here in Minnesota. He was speaking as though parents were preparing for a newborn. He was so excited. Harland talked a lot about his little sister Heidi as well. She's living in Oklahoma. And Harland would prepare for her to come up to visit on holidays. And he would many times go down there and visit. Heidi had a baby last fall. And Harland never got a chance to see his little nephew. Heidi flew up here to spend time with us today. She's staying with us. Talking to her over the last several days, she was telling me how close she was to her big brother. She's very sad that he never got to meet her son, Renjay. But there is one special memory that she will have. Last fall, Harland went down to see her when she was pregnant. And he got a chance to put his hand on her belly and feel the baby kick. This is a memory that Heidi told me she will always have, and it's a story that she will share with her son. Harland never belonged to a church, yet he was very spiritual. Many times, Harland and I would sit and talk for hours about spiritual principles, theology, philosophy. Like his grandmother, Harland believed in the power of the mind, and he also believed in the power of the human spirit. He valued truth, doing the right thing, loving one another, and giving of himself to others. The last time I talked to Harland, I asked him how everything was going. He was so happy. He said, "Tom," he said, "everything in my life is exactly the way I want it. I wouldn't change a thing. I love my job. My grandma's doing great. Sean is doing great. I got my house. And I have a trip coming up to go see Heidi and the baby." Harland passed a lot of milestones in his life. From a poor kid who moved around a lot and had a hard time making friends, to a confused teenager looking for clarity and direction in his life, to a young man who, through hard work, positive attitude, and a giving heart that loved to serve others, and with a family, his grandma, he was able to achieve the life he always wanted. Harland was young when he left this world, but he left on a high note. And in closing, I would like to say that I believe Harland and Grandma are with us here today. And to Grandma, I say, you lived a long and fantastic life. You saw the wonder and the beauty of this world. You loved everything with a passion and expressed it to others with a smile on your face. Well, Grandma, it is you who created the beauty and the wonder of this world in your own heart. And I am thankful that you shared that creation with us. And I also want to say to you, Grandma, it is you who is wonderful. It is you who are beautiful. And to Harland, I wish you could have been with us longer. A lot longer. But it wasn't meant to be. I will always cherish the times we spent together. I will never forget your loving attitude and your serving nature. I am privileged you were part of my life, and I am proud that you call me Dad. And I am proud to call you son. And to both of you, Marianne and Harland, I have one wish for the both of you. May you rest in peace.
Alright, hello everyone. For all those who do not know who I am, my name is Brian Swanson. I'm one of Harland's closest friends that he had. I just want to start off by saying how I met him. I actually started working at Champs. He was actually my trainer my very first day. And I remember going up to the beverage station. I had a table of 5. I had 5 drinks I had to go get. And he was like, well, go ahead, take it on your own. So I go and I'm sitting here trying to put up 5 drinks on my hands. And I get 4 on there, and I start walking the table. He looks over and he looks at me. He's like, starts laughing. He's like, "What a Sally!" You know, I'm thinking, I'm looking over at him. I'm like, "What an arrogant ass!" Like, who does this guy think he is? He just met me. Well, I get a little frustrated. I start doing the rest of my stuff, and he comes up and he kind of elbows me in the side. He's like, "No, I'm just messing with you, right?" Well, needless to say, at the end of the shift, we sat down, we had a couple drinks, and here I am 12 years later talking about all the great experiences we had. First off, Marianne, or as I will always know her as Grandma, she was just like Harland in many ways. Every time my family or I went over to their house, we'd walk in the door and we were greeted with that beautiful, gentle smile and that big smiling face and those painted on eyebrows. She was a wonderful lady. I've had many conversations, sat down and talked about the old days and everything that she had experienced. And Harland is actually the reason he became a great man is directly because of her. And I do thank her for that. She made Harland who he was. I was fortunate enough to have worked for Harland for 9 years, so I saw many of antics and many of his little games that he played on many servers. For example, at Granite City, and many of you Granite City servers here know that the brunch line is on table 40s. And all of a sudden, you'd be in the middle of a rush, you're running around, and he comes up to you at the last second, "Hey, can you do me a favor really quick? Just take these 2 waters for 41 real quick." And you're like, "Oh, okay, fine. So you start grabbing, you walk out, and you're like, "Oh, wait, you ass. No." And you're bringing tables out to where the brunch line is. And he did that to many people. Veteran, new, old, it didn't matter how many years you've had on service, he was still making you do that stuff. Many times I tried returning that favor to him. When Harland actually bought his house, as Tom said, it was the proudest moment in his life. He was super excited. I remember 2 weeks into him buying his house, he had a little bit of a lawn issue. He had a lot of weeds growing in his grass, and he had called me and he's like, "Hey Brian, I got all these weeds growing around. Is there anything you can do to help me?" "Oh yeah, sure Harland, I'm going to go to Walmart, I'll buy all this stuff and we'll come over and take care of it." So I go to Walmart, buy a bunch of jugs of this, what I thought was weed killer. Go over to his house and we're going. I'm like, "All right, hook it up to this and hook it up to the hose and we'll spray." So we sprayed for the whole day. The front, backyard, the garden, the whole 9 yards. Well, the next day he called me. He said, "Brian, I love you to death, man, but you need to come over here." So, "Well, what's the deal?" He's like, "My lawn is brown." So I'm like, "All right, I'm on my way." So I head on over there and I look and sure enough, there's brown spots of dead grass and everything all over his yard. I'm like, "What the heck did we use?" Keep in mind, I went and bought all this stuff. So I go and I pull this container out and sure enough it says weed and grass killer. Yeah, his lawn didn't recover that entire year. He wasn't a very happy camper, but he never held it against me. Many of you know that Harland was not much of an outdoorsman, so I made it my mission, being that I am from the outdoors. I hunt, I fish, I four-wheel, I do all that stuff. And I made it a mission to expose him to this type of stuff. Labor Day weekend of 2009, myself, Logan, and Harland took a trip up to my mom's cabin on Leech Lake. We had gotten there at 4 a.m. after a nice lengthy stop at the casino. We still had to set up a tent. So we got in there and Harland brought this. He was so excited he bought a tent and took it out of the packaging. Well, left the instructions at home. And we're sitting there, me, Logan, and Harland are trying to put up this tent at 4 o'clock in the morning, drunk. And literally there was 50,000 mosquitoes. I mean, we're swinging and swatting and doing everything else. Needless to say, we did it for about an hour, and Harland and Logan ended up sleeping in the car. But also that weekend, Harland did do something that he did for his first time. Well, I actually did a few things, but his four-wheeler ride. I'll never forget this. So me, Logan, we jump on our four-wheelers, start them up, we drive off. We get to the end of the driveway, and we look back, and Harland's not coming. Well, I better go check on him. So I spin around, I go back, and he kind of looks at me, he's like, "I don't know how to start it." Kind kind of laugh. I get off the four-wheeler, I go, and I started, and I drive away. And a couple minutes later, we're sitting there, and Logan's like, "Where's Harland?" I started the four-wheeler for him. I don't know where he is. So I turn around, and I go back, and this time his four-wheeler's running, so he doesn't see me coming, or hear me coming. And here he is, he's cranking on the handbrake. He's like trying to figure out, and he looks down, pushes on the foot brake. He's trying to figure out how to go, and he still cannot figure it out. So I stop, and he's yelled up, "I don't know how to go." I'm like, "Oh, the throttle right here." And so he's like, "Oh, yeah," looks down, pushes the throttle down really hard. Damn near does a somersault out the back of the four-wheeler. Yeah, that was quite intense. But at the end of that ride, 1.75 bottle of Captain later, we get to the bar, and I've got Logan and Harland and all three of our four-wheelers sitting there. And Amelia's 9 months pregnant at this point, so she's kind of our designated driver. And we get there and had a couple more drinks, a couple shots, and sure enough, I go outside to smoke a cigarette, and here's Harland puking over the side. And Logan's too drunk to drive, so we go on. It's about a 30-minute drive on the four-wheeler, and I have to drive my four-wheeler back. Amelia brings Logan and Harland back to the house, and then drives me back to the bar. I have to drive another four-wheeler back, and back to the bar, and another four-wheeler home. So I'm a little irritated by the time I get home, and I'm getting back ready to just chew these guys out. And I get out there, and here they are sitting right by the beach on a lawn chair, just chowing on bowls of cereal. I'm like, wow, what a bunch of great guys. Leave me to drive 3 four-wheelers home. He loved that vacation. He also shot his first gun that weekend. He shot a 30-06 he was pretty proud of. All right. Harland and I also played softball for about 7 years. Every Tuesday for summer and fall, we got together, and all of these traditions that we will carry on are a direct result of him. Every Tuesday, he would coordinate with every person on our team, and including other people. He would get together, everyone for a barbecue. We'd go to the field 2 hours beforehand. He'd be the first one there. He'd have the grill going. "Oh, come on in. I got salmon and steak and shrimp and crab and everything else." It wasn't just a burger. He had to go all out. He had to get make sure everyone that's fed. And even to the point that we'd be sitting there for, an hour, and, it's getting closer to game time, and the umpire walks by. Harland, "Hey, you want some food? Come on over here." And the umpire would come over and eat with us and sit down, and, Harland's sitting there trying to rub him. "Hey, you going to give us a little calls this way?" Well, it didn't really work out that way, but even at the end of our games, we could have gotten beat by 30 runs. And half of the team would be upset, half of them would be running around, pissed off that we lost the game. And here's Harland running over and shaking hands with the other team. Son, at least we ate better than you. And that's just what he was. And actually last year, I was able to watch him hit his first home run. And the thing with softball, with slow pitch softball, is when you hit a home run, most people just run to first, touch first base, turn around and run back to the dugout. Well, not Harland. No way. He hit his first home run, I swear he just walked. He went to get around those bases, and he's waving at everybody. He hit a couple more that year, too, and each time he trotted around the bases, enjoyed every single moment of it. That was the thing that, we loved so much about him. It's going to be really tough this year with softball that we are going to carry on looking out in right center field and not seeing him. Also, Harland had a unique method of giving people nicknames. I bet 75% of these people in this room have their own nickname. And I bet I could go to each one of those people that Harland gave a nickname to, and not one of them would be alike. That is the type of guy he was. He gave the world and the shirt off his back for every single person. My nickname was Batman. I'm assuming he called me that because I can run fast around the bases. And he said I could always fly around the bases, and I ended up getting the nickname Batman. And it stuck, and everyone still calls me that to this day. All right, Harland and Marianne had a major impact in many of our lives. Harland had enough heart to give every single person that he came into contact with. I now ask that each of us in this room take whatever influence he may have had on you, take a little piece of him and apply it to your daily life. If everyone applied just a little piece of who he was, our lives would be so much better, and this world would be a much better place. Hold your loved ones a little longer. Tell your loved ones you love them a lot more, because you never know how long you're going to have them. Cherish every moment, because you'll never know when it's going to be your time to make your journey to heaven. I just touched on a few of the memories that I hold close to my heart. Harland was a unique, one-of-a-kind person that will never be replaced in my lifetime or 10 others. I'm very proud of the fact that I was thought of and able to call Harland my best friend. On behalf of myself, Amelia, Addison, Kylie, and the rest of my family and everyone here, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for becoming such a large part of it. You will always have a place in our hearts. I love you, and you will never be forgotten. Rest in peace, my friend. This is not goodbye. It's until we meet again.
Hello everybody, my name is Sean Heim, and I've been blessed with Harland's friendship for nearly 15 years. Harland was like a little brother to me. When I first met Harland back in 1998, I was the night crew manager at Cub Foods in Brooklyn Park. Nearly every day after our shift, a few of us would go to Denny's restaurant on Brooklyn Boulevard, and pretty much every day order Grand Slams. Out of the blue, a cook would pop out and tease us for ordering the same meal every day. That was Harland. Over the next weeks, he mentioned wanting a second job. I told him Cub was hiring, and eventually he was hired to work the overnight shift in the dairy department. I still work grocery department, but we got to know each other better as time went on. We both love sports, mafia movies. Of course, The Sopranos was on, and that was both our favorite shows. And no day was complete if he hadn't been goofing off and I had to correct him. So. You really had to have eyes also in the backyard with Harland. You never know if a frozen pizza roll, football, anything was coming your way. But he was a lot of fun to be around. He made the shifts go by a lot quicker. In 2002, we started going to baseball games. The first two we saw were the Twins' divisional series against Oakland. Harland didn't drive back then, so I'd pick him up at his apartment. Even though he never had a lot of money, he always had a great attitude and a ready smile. He never felt sorry for himself. Later that year, I transferred from that store and went to the store in Coon Rapids, but we always stayed in touch and kept hanging out together. We went to sport games, movies, and out to eat. Harland loved food. If anybody knew him, that man could eat. One day we went to Champs in Maple Grove. I don't remember who picked the restaurant, but I'm glad we did. Harland's life changed that day, for the better. He struck up a conversation with the manager while we were there and found out they were hiring. Soon after, Harland was hired at Champs and had a much better income job and was able to support his grandma a lot better. Over time, he was able to afford his first car, and he moved from Brooklyn Park to an apartment in Maple Grove. I believe Harland always appreciated the little things more so than many of us do. He chose that apartment with his grandma in mind. He made sure there had to be a park, a library, and a grocery store nearby for her. Even though Harland left Cub for Champs in Granite City, he always made time for his friends. And of course, nothing took the place of time with his grandma. We started taking trips out of state. So many trips. We went to Kansas City, Lambeau Field, and back to Kansas City again in search of better barbecue. Did I mention he loved food? We went to Arthur Bryant's on one trip, and it was the first and only time I saw Harland so focused on the food that he never said a word the entire meal. We went to Las Vegas 4 or 5 times. Harland was such a trusting person that he gave me all his money the minute the plane landed in Vegas. He knew he would waste it or lose it the first minute we were there. We also went to California and Yellowstone. I loved every trip we went on. We had a tradition of playing catch in every new state we went to. For those of you who know how much Harland overthrew the softball, there's still softballs in Lake Michigan, Lake Yellowstone, Missouri River, and the Great Salt Lake. I ran a softball team in Coon Rapids, and in 2005, Harland, never playing much ball in his life, joined the team. He was a quick study. He was a natural athlete. I think most of you know that. He lived every night for softball. Softball became an event where the game was secondary. I know the food has already been mentioned, but the pre-game barbecue was an epic event. As time went by, though, Harland was able to buy a house with his hard work, determination, and support from his grandmother. Harland spoke of his grandmother's devotion to raising him often. I wish I had gotten to know her a little better. She seemed like an amazing woman to take watching over her grandson into her 70s. Harland was equally devoted to her. As his financial situation improved, he did a lot to improve her quality of life as well as his own. How many people into their 80s get to travel coast to coast? But they did. Harland loved all his family. More often than not, he was smiling when he talked. The traits I'll always remember best in Harland were his sense of humor, love of life and family, friends also. He was never in a bad mood. Harland loved to laugh and did it often. He had the biggest smile you've ever seen in your life. His love of food was unequaled. Har made everyone around him better. His positive attitude was uplifting. You just felt good when he was around you. It's impossible to put in words how Harland's friendship meant to me. He positively influenced my life in countless ways. I wouldn't be the person I am today without him. I will miss him every day of my life and will always cherish the friendship we had. Thank you for letting me share these memories with you.
Hi everyone, I am Dietrich. This is the first day I've met Tom and his family today. In his eulogy he uses the word beautiful, which I use a lot too. It's kind of like Harland, his grandma must be here. Okay, I want to first of all thank the Tom and Kelly Schroeder family, his adopted parents. His beautiful Champs tribute that they gave to him and all his friends for setting up for him today. It's really, really pretty in here. It's beautiful. To our beloved Harland and Grandma, it's been 10 days since your passing. Yes, life goes on. Babies are born. People die. Planes travel off. We go back to work, hustle and bustle of life. But on February 2nd, 2013, it was Harland and Grandma's day to travel to heaven. Remember everyone, life for today, live for today, tomorrow is not a promise for anyone. I met Harland back at Champs in the late 1990s, somewhere in there. He came up to me and said, "Hi, I'm Harland Dietrich." And I said, "Hi, I'm Joanne Dietrich." "Yes, Joe, Mama." We started laughing. And a few months later, someone came up to me and said, "Happy birthday, Joe." And Harland looks at me and said, "Mine too, March 28th. We both share the same birthday. What are the odds?" I'm born on my mother's and my grandma's birthday, and I always wanted a child on my birthday. Harland came along. Only 6'3", 230 pounds, easy delivery. And he actually looks more like me than my two boys are blonde and blue eyes. I don't get this one. Yes, a beautiful friendship begins. Some of Harland's favorite things: his blue cheeseburger and buffalo sandwiches from Champs. His waffle fries. You didn't touch his food. He didn't like anyone touching his food. He turned into a grizzly bear. But if you gave him chocolate, he was a honey bear. He loved taking Grandma out on Mondays. It was grocery day at Walmart, but he would only buy his meat at Byerly's. Then on Sunday nights, he would make awesome meals for his friends and his brother. He was quite the cook. His favorite attire would be his jogging pants or his sweats. A day like today, Harland would be in here on a sunny, warm day, probably wearing basketball shorts. He also loved telling jokes. I told Harlan I never laughed at your jokes. I mostly laughed at you. He'd always walk away, be giggling, because I thought his jokes were so stupid. Harlan, your jokes are like, okay. But I would always laugh at him because he'd be giggling so hard. One of the last road trips Harlan and Grandma took was out west, the beautiful redwoods. Harlan loved life. Also was a father figure to his little brother, Sean, whom he loved very much. Harlan had no complaints, life is good. Grandma, what can we say? Thank you for raising such a young, beautiful man. She was quite the lady, Miss Daisy, would put on her makeup each day, her blue eyeshadow, her red lipstick. She'd pencil in her eyebrows. She would wear like a turban or some kind of thing always on her head. She was quite a beautiful lady with a big smile. She loved pistachios, nuts were her favorite snack. Harlan was so proud when he bought a warm and beautiful home for Grandma. It was her palace. If MasterCard could do a commercial, Harlan and Grandma, you're priceless. Last Monday, I asked Harlan to give me a sign if he was okay. 3 hours later, my husband called and said, hey, Joe, look out at the sunset. Next to the sunset was a rainbow of pillars. Joe, I'm okay. It was Harlan. We're in heaven. One comfort I have was when my friend Nisa Arditi called. She said, Harlan's driving Grandma to heaven. I thought about it, yes. But this is their road trip. This is their last road trip. It was on a Harley. Harlan, I'm going to end it. Harlan would probably ask everyone to leave here to live, love, and laugh often and help the less fortunate and maybe smile or touch an elderly person. He would probably really love that. And I know there's a lot of people who loved Harlan here as a mother. A lot of us do, so I'm really going to miss him, but I know he's in heaven. It's much what he wanted, so thank you, everybody.
I'm really short. I'm going to try really hard to get through this. My boobs are talking, I am. Just to start off, I'm Kelly Schroeder, and just bear with me, please. I have a letter here, actually a word for word, from Maxine, Harlan's other mother. She wanted me to read it mother to mother. And I'm going to try really hard, and I'm going to read it word for her. I've known Maxine and Harlan for 18 years, 19 years. And I know Maxine very well. I'm one of the few that can really hold a conversation with her and halfway understand what she's saying. If you do Maxine, you know that's a really tough thing to do. I'm going to read this first, and then I'm hopefully going to get through a couple other things. Let's see. It says, I regret that I am not able to attend, as my circumstances do not permit me to travel, and I am in a faraway state. Before I say anything, I would like to express my heartfelt thanks and gratitude to both Kelly and Tom Schroeder for everything they have done for Harlan, Grandma, and my family. Both Kelly and Tom have seen to all of Harlan and Grandma's funeral arrangements, cremations, gatherings of friends, and everything else in my absence. No words can ever express how grateful I am to have them as friends, and for them being close to Harlan and Grandma for many, many years. They have been as parents to Harlan and have been there for Sean in this most tragic time. Thanks to both Kelly and Tom that this gathering here was made possible. Harland spent a lot of time with his grandma Marianne when growing up. As a teen, he worked at Lund's supermarket, only 2 blocks from her apartment. So he stayed with her as I lived in Brooklyn Park at that time. Later on, I secured an apartment in Brooklyn Park for my mother, Marianne, whom I've always called Grandma. She was called Grandma by all 3 of my kids. Harland and I spent a great deal of time working together on the same jobs. I got him a job at Brooklyn Park Denny's, where I was working as a cook. Harland was an exceptionally hard worker and soon learned to both cook and wait tables. He and I often cooked together at the Denny's location. Harland was a friend to me as well as my son. He and I would attend the gym together quite often. I worked out and he played basketball, of which he loved. One of the most pronounced aspects of his personality was that he knew how to have fun and brought this to many others. He led others to have fun and enjoyment in life. Every month right after payday, for the both of us, we would go to Mall of America, take in a movie, and have dinner. This was Harland's idea, as he got time to get out and have fun. I will always remember these times. They are very special to me. Harland was excellent at organizing things and also took me and his brother Sean and sister Heidi along with Grandma on a trip to the West Coast. I've never had so much fun in my entire life. Grandma took Harland to live with her during the time I was homeless. I have had unfortunate circumstances that I was not always able to live with my kids, but I always kept in close contact with all of them. My mother, Marianne, was a gifted soul, as is Harland. I remember when I was in my early adolescence, she healed herself from cancer twice, using the powers of her mind and soul, of which she taught me to use. She was able to do things with her mind. One memorable event that occurred was when I was working in Brooklyn Park and someone stole my purse. I called her and she told me she would work on it using her mind and that I would definitely get it back. This was 1,000,000 to 1. But that very same night, when I got off work and went home, I was compelled to look for my purse and soon found it fully intact. Only a very small amount of money that was in it was missing, in a garbage dumpster at the apartment complex where I lived. She did many other important things using the powers of her mind and soul. She taught Harland the importance of positive thinking and of having a positive attitude. She did this every day. I myself am a strong psychic, a professional astrologer, and I can communicate with those in spirit form. Both myself and both me and her, I'm not sure how to put that because it didn't sound right, are gifted and psychic and adapt at spiritual communications. I have had contact with Harland since his passing. This has greatly helped ease my intense grief. Harland is here today with you all, and he wants you to know that he hears every word and every tear. Those of you who are physically open may be able to both see and hear him and feel him beside you. He told me that his death was quick, and he did not suffer, and neither did Marianne. Marianne was reincarnated almost immediately following her passing. Harland will be reincarnating into a happy life following this event today. He told me he has already visited quite a few of you. Some of you may have seen him, sensed him, and known that his presence is there. He's a very powerful and gifted soul. He has a happy life waiting for him in a safe area of the world. He said not to grieve, and this only makes things more difficult. He is being looked after by the gods and has made many more friends on the other side. Open your mind and second sight, and you will see him here. It was his wishes not to be viewed at a wake. He will miss all of his... Oh, I can't even... He will miss all of his friends here. He says thank you for coming here to say goodbye and remember him in your own special ways. He also says thank you to his friends who put up the Facebook page and to his friends who put up the memorial on the lake. He says thank you to his coworkers at Craves who gave him his opportunities that made him happy. He has enjoyed working with all of you in all three of the restaurants, 4 of the restaurants. He is dictating this right now as I am typing here. He was with those of you who attended the Super Bowl gathering on Sunday at Champs. These are Harland's words to all of you. Do not grieve for me. I have a happy future ahead of me. There were things that I needed but never had in this life, and I will be given in my future incarnation. Look to and dwell on the happy things in your lives, and always, always have goals. Sports bring friendship and happiness and togetherness, as we all come together and root for the same team most of the time. Eating and partying, all having a great time. Our team better win. Please do not lose contact with each other. In my memory, please keep the softball team going and meetings going. And remember to get together, as we all did, to watch the games, to have barbecues. And do not let my passing affect your happiness. But know that you're being there and celebrating is what I wish for you to continue with. I will always be with you in memory. Thank you to everyone here, as you brought me much happiness and friendship, which meant so much to me, Harland. And I had more to say, but I don't think I can say it. Thank you. I want to thank everyone for coming. We didn't quite expect this many people. I'm sorry for standing it back. I don't even know. Thank you.
There's going to be a catered meal here in about, I think, 15 or 20 minutes. The bar will be open, and I really think Harland would want me to be the first one in line up the bar. And also there's an evening event tonight in the main bar area over here, so if you know people that couldn't make it today, you could call them. We're having a DJ over there. There's going to play songs on request for Harland, and people can share more stories about him. And one more thing, at the table over by the door, there are thank you cards for the first responders, specifically the divers. These guys worked really, really hard trying to save Grandma and Harland, and they risked their lives, and they're volunteers. And I I think it'd be good if we all showed our appreciation for what they did. Thank you.